We are here today to witness two men who have had a disagreement, and by the code of honor will settle this disagreement on this dueling ground. I want to give you a brief history. Some of you may know the history of the Springs. I'd like to tell you this history as our cast makes their way in, and then I'd like to introduce them to you. In 1806, Mississippi Territory was formed with its capital being in Washington, Mississippi. At that time, the area around Columbia was called Watts Bluff. The city of Columbia was incorporated in 1812. What is that? In 1812, Columbia was incorporated. In 1817, the Mississippi Territory became a state. And the capital was in Washington. In 1820, it was decided that they would move the capital, and for 1 year it was located in Columbia. The legislature of 1821-22 met at a place called Stovall Springs, 3 miles north of Columbia. A man named Stovall, trying to take advantage of this time in his life, decided to develop a spring into a retreat, building a hotel, a gathering place. Starting in the early 1820s, some of the fine citizens of the Mississippi River area from Vicksburg all the way down through Natchez frequented Stovall Springs. And the people from New Orleans would come up to Stovall Springs to take advantage of all the amenities that Mr. Stovall was offering them. During the summer of 1826, on such an evening, there was a gathering. The master of ceremonies was a fine man of high standing from Natchez. The master of ceremonies would seat the guests as they came in to the hotel, the gathering place for the meal. Judge Richard Stockton from Natchez, who at the time was the Attorney General of the state, came to have dinner that evening. The master of ceremonies seated him at the table. Mr. Payson from New Orleans, a merchant from New Orleans, came in as well and was seated at the same table. Mr. Stockton's father was Richard Stockton, one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence. So Mr. Stockton was at the table and Mr. Payson. A lady from New Orleans came in who knew Mr. Payson, and Mr. Payson turned to her without consulting the master of ceremonies and said, "Sit with my group." When she did, she forced Mr. Stockton's group to move down the table. Mr. Stockton took offense at this. An argument ensued. Both men were about to draw their pistols when a lady leapt between them and said, "Stop! We're not going to have this tonight at this table." Everyone sat down and they had their meal, and it was the coldest evening of their life. No one said a word. When they got up after the meal, some of Mr. Stockton's friends said, "You cannot let that go by. You must challenge this man." And this is what Stockton did. Challenged Mr. Payson to settle their differences. Now, in the Code of Honor, which has 26 commandments, it was drawn up in Ireland in 1777. You do not have a duel with someone of a lesser social standing. No one at that establishment knew Mr. Payson, and no one could vouch for his social standing. And so for 3 days they waited until General Ripley, a renowned War of 1812 general, could come from New Orleans or send word from New Orleans and vouch for Mr. Payson's social standing, which he did. And so we have two men of equal standing, and a duel is set up. Mr. Payson is the challenged individual. Mr. Stockton is the challenger. Mr. Payson gets to pick the place that the duel is going to take place. And he chooses his hometown of New Orleans. Mr. Stockton, being the challenger, chooses the weapons to be used, which could have been pistols, shotguns, swords, knives, whatever. He chooses pistols. So it is set up as a sidelight to this duel. On the same evening, at the hotel, there is a lady who has come to have dinner. I would estimate that Stockton and this lady are about late 30s to 40 years of age, because 20 years earlier, this lady had been Mr. Stockton's beau. But she ultimately married another man, an attorney from Natchez, and that man that she married had been killed in another duel. And the man that killed her husband was massacred at Fort Mims by the Creek Indians. She was a widow, but she was there that night. Now, you can build your own scenario around that. That was a sidelight to the duel that we are reenacting. I would like at this time to introduce our cast of characters that will be portraying tonight. And I'll start over here to the left. Miss Rachel Baker is portraying Mr. Payson's wife. She was at the dinner that night. Portraying Mr. Payson, the merchant from New Orleans, the challenged individual is Ken Knox, who most of you know because he organized this event. Each man, the principals, have seconds. The seconds have very important jobs. The seconds load the pistol. The seconds also define the terms and the exact time of the duel. Mr. Payson's second is Mr. Martin Aubuchon. Martin Aubuchon has driven all the way from St. Louis to be here with you. Mr. Aubuchon is a member of Dance Discovery and will be the caller for the dance lessons tonight. I hope you'll come. He is an engineer with the city of St. Louis. Next we have Dr. A.W. Binion, who is portraying the judge for the duel. Retired physician. Next we have Mr. Stockton's second, who will be loading the pistol for Mr. Stockton, is Mr. Tom Watts. Tom is a retired colonel from the United States Army, worked for the Pentagon in Germany. He has taught history in Madison County. He is one of the vice presidents of president-elect of the Natchez Trace Parkway Association, a great historian. Portraying Mr. Stockton, Judge Stockton, Richard Stockton, is Adam Quinn. Adam comes from an old family in Natchez. He renovates custom furniture in downtown Natchez. Adam, in his younger years, was king of the Natchez pilgrimage. Next is Miss Kathy Hopkins. Kathy is going to portray the lady who happened to be there that night, who was Mr. Stockton's beau 20 years earlier. She is from Hattiesburg and is a in medical sales. Next we have Mr. Terry Beadle Bailey. Mr. Bailey's role is that he was asked by Mr. Stockton to escort the young lady to the dueling grounds just in case he is unable to escort her out. And finally we have Mr. Brandon Cobb, who is portraying the physician. These are your major players for this duel. I want to tell you, watch carefully. This does not take long. It's a very quick shot. And if you look at your cell phone, you're going to miss it.
Just a moment. I would like to prepare first. A gentleman is always properly dressed. You wouldn't know that, though, would you? Take your position.
Yes.
Gentlemen, the churches the ground, you may proceed.
Another one bites it up. He is dead.
Sir! He planned not to shoot his pistol. He apologized.
Far too late for that man.
Oh my.
Never recovered after this. He closed its doors. Mr. Payson lived for 2 more years and drowned in the Mississippi River in New Orleans. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to reenact this for you. You're dismissed.